Okay, I'm turning.
Okay, let's kick this meeting off. It is 8:32 on Friday, February 18th. Welcome to the February Neighborhood Star Board meeting. We will begin by reviewing the minutes for the January 21st meeting. Are there any proposed edits? And I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Marge. All in favor of approving the January 2022 minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is a Ward 6 year-round proposal for a roof replacement for Arcade Wine and Spirits. It looks like Chang Vang is on the call. Can you turn your camera, please, and say hi.
Hi.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for joining us. We have reviewed your application and would ask if you can quickly introduce yourself and your business and the project you are requesting funds for, and then we'll open it for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll open it up for board member questions. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay, my name is Chang Wang. I'm the store manager for the Arcade Liquor, Arcade Wine and Spirits at the Arcade Street. So we are the new owner of that liquor store. We just purchased the liquor store back in April 15, 2021. Okay, and then this winter, when the snow melted, we discovered that there's a leaking through the building. So I've been searching around since the owner spent a lot of money to purchase the liquor store and buy the inventory to the liquor. So I've been searching around to see any funding that can help. So finally, I get contact with City Council or NELC to find out to see the City of St. Paul any funding that can help us, because we just spent ton of money to purchase the liquor, so we will not have money to do the improvement. And then finally, Nancy could introduce us to this program.
Great, thank you for that, and thanks for the application. Board members, do we have any questions for our applicant this morning?
Editorial, we need our liquor stores on the east side.
Thank you, Marge.
Hi, this is Erin. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Arian. Good to have you here.
Sorry, I don't have the application in front of me. I had to drop off my kids, but I had two questions. One, so do you guys own the building for the liquor store? And then my second question is, oh, go ahead.
So you can finish your question first. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So just answer that. I guess that one first. Are you guys the building owner and the business owner?
It could say the building because it's owner, but it's contract for 10 years. Okay. So that could be the owner too. Yes.
Okay. And when you bought the building, did you have an inspection?
No. This is all my owner. But we did call the City of St. Paul the final inspection. They said that the building was last inspection was nothing wrong with that. And however, I talked about the roofing to see any new roofs been replaced. The City of St. Paul said that since the record, this has never been replaced. And I back to look at on the date, the 1986, something like that, when the parent took over the owner from Walford Liquors, and it had been replaced. So it seems like the roof's very old.
Yeah, no, I was more like thinking about like an inspection. If you got entered into a contract for deed to purchase the building, if at that point you had an outside inspection done, not the city inspection, but an inspection just telling you what was wrong with if anything was wrong with the building.
We did self inspection. We did the self inspection, but we're not hiring a professional. But we did self inspection for that, and we know that the roof is even though the seller told us the roof's old, so the seller had no idea what age of the roof. But we thought like maybe it's still usable for a couple of years, so we can make some profit and we can do some repair. But somehow during this winter, we discovered that's leaking.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Other board member questions or comments for our applicant? This seems to be a pretty modest request here. What's the total cost? Can you remind the group again?
Well, I have one dig the estimate because he have to go to the roof and dig the snow because there was no snow on the roofing, and then he gave me the labels cost around between 9 to 10,000, but that's only labor only. So the material cost could be around that amount. So looking for about like between 20 25K. It depends on the contractor.
Sure.
Chair, members, I do have a question. Good
Yeah,
morning.
go ahead, Fatima.
Just understanding this is a contract for deed interaction. Is there any cost that the current owners also contributing to the replacement and the needed work on the building? Was that stipulated in the contract? I'm trying to understand how basically this wasn't caught as the transference is in process. Chang, sorry.
No,
This is a
yes,
question.
no,
for you.
the seller will not contribute anything. After we contract for this, the property is us. And then even though we like see the contract for this, like the contract for 10 years, right? If we have money, we can pay off, or we can refinance through the bank if we make the store making money, so we can refinance to the bank, and then that will be our property. So there's a no, the seller will not do any contribution to the property.
Yeah, that's helpful. Other questions, board members? Okay, well, thank you for coming in, and we will discuss the application and follow up with city staff, and the city staff will follow up with you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Okay, board members, next up is item 3 on the agenda, St. Paul Fire Department, the portable radio upgrade. And looks like Rick is here to present. So please introduce yourself and give a quick review of the project and the application.
You bet. Thank you, Chair Vanderard and board for allowing me to present to the board today and to consider this grant request for St. Paul Fire Department portable radios. So this project was born out of a necessity to replace both portable and handheld radios across our public safety spectrum for the city of St. Paul. So it's a subcomponent of a citywide effort. And I'm sorry, I am Rick Schut. I am the emergency manager for the city, so your emergency manager, but I'm also the project champion for radio replacement across the city. And as I said, it's a citywide effort, and this is a subcomponent. Last year, the fire department applied for and was awarded an assistance to firefighter grant. And that is a FEMA grant, and it requires a city match of 10%. That grant was specific to replacing 248 portable or handheld radios that support public safety and specifically for the seated firefighters within the city. And these radios stay on constantly. And as I said, for the seated firefighters. The grant was awarded in $1.24 million for that project for those 248 radios. And the amount that we're seeking from the STAR board, $112,772, is the 10% match. And as I said, it's a citywide effort. The radios that the firefighters are using right now were first purchased in 2003, and they have exceeded their lifespan. They're actually end of life in 2018, and we cannot seek any support from the manufacturer, even for a new battery. They're not making batteries for the current radios that are in operation. So we've been looking for innovative ways to find dollars, both appropriated from the fire department's budget, but also grant dollars from the federal government. And last year we awarded it. It was awarded late in the year, so it was awarded after the fire department's budget was executed and obligated. And in order to avoid a 10% market increase in radio pricing, we had to make the purchase last year from the manufacturer, which we accomplished that, which drove us to, actually create this project and do it without being able to present to the STAR board. And so that's why I'm coming to you after the fact and making sure that I answer all your questions. And that's the project.
Great, thank you, Mr. Shute. Board members, what questions do we have? Jim, go ahead. You're on mute.
Well, first of all, I closed the blinds so that Marge can see my beautiful face. But secondly,
Thank you.
I have a question. It's for Michelle, actually. Exactly where would these funds, whose funds would this come from? Because typically at this time of year, it would come from a specific council member's pot. How does this particular request work?
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, everyone. These funds, the projected sales tax for 2021, they ended up receiving more sales tax than what they anticipated. So when it came to budget time, so that was December 8th, was when the budget was decided for 2022. The city council and the mayor decided to use some of that overage of 2021 sales tax dollars that would have gone to the Neighborhood Star program and decided to send funding this direction instead. Does that answer your question?
To clarify, Michelle, what I think Rick is telling us is that we're already obligated for this item by the city council.
City council has already passed the funding, correct?
Right.
So we're just another pretty signature. Is that all it is?
According to state law, the Neighborhood Star Board needs to review a proposal prior to city council approval.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or discussion points, board members? Okay, well, Mr. Shute, thank you for the application. Thank you for your time this morning, and thanks for the explanation to the board of what you're looking for and making sure that your folks out there, our neighbors, have the equipment they need.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Okay, board, on next we have Roxanne's update on marketing. So Roxanne, good morning, and the floor is yours.
Morning, everybody. So it's going slow, but I'm just trying to think.
Oh, we lost you, Roxanne. Looks like your microphone's off.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good now. Thank you.
I did talk to Charlie about a budget or something in regards to, is there a way to maybe have some events over here on the north end where we could invite business owners and get the information across all at once instead of the time it would take for me to try to visit or engage in all of the businesses. I have visited a few. It is taking time to like do them individually. So I just think, I don't know, or maybe some events that I could attend that are already happening over here. Just something that I could get either information from the business owners on what we could be doing to get the information out better. Or I don't know, something.
Yeah, I think thanks for that, Roxanne. One of the issues that the subcommittee talked about was getting the word out about the program to more eligible applicants. So making sure that people who could qualify knew about the program, and that we were making sure to reach all corners of the city, because sometimes, I mean, city programs fly under the radar, and people who are planning a business and dreaming a business or looking to expand their business don't know about the STAR program. And so what ways can the board try to be intentional around outreach and marketing of the neighborhood STAR program? Thinking of some of the traditional corridors, obviously, district councils, community councils, city council members in their offices, but then what other ways beyond that could we reach people? And so Roxanne was thinking of, you know, is there funding for ways to get out there, or are there existing events that we could tap into in our own wards? And so what are ways we can be a little more intentional and raise up the program? So I don't, when Roxanne and I were communicating about this, try to figure out, I don't know if there's a budget from the STAR budget. I mean, we're trying to get money out to businesses. So I don't know if there's a budget for this, for events or things, but I think it's great for the board to think about what are ways that we can talk to applicants, entrepreneurs in our districts, and notify them of the upcoming rounds. What are some of the processes in place, or what are some of the success stories you had? What has worked? And so I think there's some information sharing that we can undertake to see what has worked, or what other ideas we have.
Thank you,
Hey,
Chair.
this is Erin. I have one idea. If you want, is this the time you would want me to tell you that? Or do you,
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, okay. So I was wondering if we've done any communications through like business licensing. Like, does that, I'm sure they have a database of all the licenses. Like, have we ever sent something out, a notification about funding to all the licensed businesses, like through mail? I guess that's a question for Michelle.
Yeah, Nancy, Michelle.
Yep, I'm here. We do a lot of advertising as far as our website, anyone that's interested in the program, anyone that has received funding in the past. But I'm thinking that, and Roxanne, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm thinking that the goal here is to reach out to maybe certain populations instead of just doing a blanket, because I think we've done kind of a blanket advertisement as far as the website goes and individual emails, because we do an email blast. And we used to have the in-person workshop, but I think maybe the goal here is try to reach out to maybe small businesses, minority-owned, women-owned businesses. So I think that might be a slightly different approach than just doing anyone that does business in the city of St. Paul.
Is there an
Yep. So one of the things we were looking to do with our marketing was, we knew that we had disadvantaged areas that were not receiving STAR funds, and we didn't want to target those areas in North End. And me living on North End was one of the biggest areas that are not being targeted. And we do have actually a lot of minority and women-owned businesses in this area. So yeah, I think it needs to be more direct marketing and targeting toward that marketing in those areas, because if we've been doing the blanketed effect and it's not working, then yeah.
Yeah, Angela, go ahead.
I was just thinking, is there an opportunity for us to do like a multi-prong approach? So one would be the direct marketing. So do an overall assessment of where we've allocated funding in the past 5 years, where there might be deficits, and then target those populations specifically. Another might be to leverage recent awardees, so in the last 2 years, and have them do like mini statements or some like testimonials that they can leverage their specific social media networks, but that we could also pump out through the city's social media. Another thing might be to leverage some of the larger community-wide events that happen So like summer's a great time, National Night Out, like there's events that happen in every community across the city at different times. So, you know, putting a calendar together and kind of leveraging those, maybe kind of divide and conquer with, you know, us as board members in the specific wards. The other might be just to like do a targeted approach with the district councils. Like I did a really intentional approach with when I was sitting on the board for District 8, so the Summit University Planning Council. And so I always made sure to talk about that when people came to us for, you know, variance requests or, you know, just site planning opportunities. I was like, okay, well, there's this pot available for small businesses, St. Paul, like this is an opportunity for you to leverage those dollars as well. So it was like they're sharing ideas, but we're also giving them the opportunity to tap into the resources that the city provides that they may not be aware of. So just trying to think of ways we can get out there that don't necessarily cost, you know, us $50,000 for a marketing campaign, but leveraging existing lines of communication that we have.
Well, can I ask a question? Is there any way those city council people, I mean, they put out newsletters, right? The issue is, does everybody read them? You know, when you, if they send them out via email, do they get to everybody that needs to understand what the city has available? I mean, it feels like it should be part of their role to be making sure their constituents know what the city has available, right? I mean,
leveraging newsletters and their
website on the board to do that. The other thing could be providing the information to all the business associations. I don't know what the North End has anymore, if the Rice Street Business Association is up there anymore, but St. Paul Chamber, Midway Chamber, Hmong Chamber of Commerce, you know, those business groups that could maybe, I mean, they'll post anything we give them and push it out. It's just a matter of, even on social media, if people need something, they should be looking at some of those resource pods, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, those are great. points.
So one of the things.
Yeah, go ahead, Roxanne.
Oh no, I was just gonna say so one of the things
Mr.
that I've
Chair,
known.
Have we identified
One of the things that I've
why we
realized.
need a marketing program?
Hold on, Marge. I think Roxanne wanted to respond to those ideas, and then we'll go to you next, Marge.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right.
So I guess one of the things that I know when I do teach like my business development class and when I taught financial education to people in my last job position is a lot of times people don't know what they don't know. And so that is the biggest issue. And when you're talking about disparate communities, I've lived over here and in my community, I haven't seen not one National Night Out. So when you talk about like getting the resources out to things that are already happening in the neighborhoods, I think it's important that we first find out what kind of events and community things are happening in the neighborhoods. Because like I said, I don't even see a lot of community vitality in this neighborhood. And so when that's what kind of made me go and think like, do I have to go to these businesses individually? Because I don't see a lot of community connection specifically on this area of North End, Maryland, Rice Street to Del Como area. And so, and we have the Marydale Lake, we have the North End Community Center. So it just kind of puzzles me, like, why isn't there more things going on? And in the heart of this North End, where the most of the minority businesses are, like, how do we get the information out there if nothing is happening in the community? Because if nothing's happening in the community, those business owners are probably not following along with their council people. You know, they're probably not going in depth on the newsletters that they're receiving and things like that. So.
Yeah, that's really helpful perspective, Roxanne. Thanks for that. Marge, go ahead.
No, it's all right. I'm done.
John.
Yeah,
Hey,
David.
I have one
yeah,
more.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna add, it
Go,
would
John,
be interesting. I should have asked how Chang got to Nelsie. What are those routes that people use, or how did he hear about the liquor store owner hear about it? But I think that's what Roxanne is talking about. How do we, it's gonna take some investigation into all of, I appreciate Angela, what you said about two things. First of all, trying to start lighting a fire under district councils or providing support in a way so that that becomes a real go-to in the community. But also finding out how people connect with their city council person, because that should, especially when they're when they're suggesting grants, that should really be a center of a lot of this. So anyway, thanks. Sorry.
Hey, Chair, this is Derek.
Yeah, Derek, good morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I think it's a great idea from the marketing perspective. I know, and I didn't hear come up, I know that annually you host a business fair when we do our application process. And I know that it can move around from time to time. So maybe we target that area with just our business fair. Maybe we do, instead of doing one, maybe we do them quarterly. And so that way, when staff comes out and members of the STAR board, whoever you delegate or yourself, come out and they can do that business fair, maybe we replicate that. We tend to get a pretty good showing for that. And then the other thing I was thinking about was maybe we partner with DSI. Most of the businesses, if not all, if I'm not mistaken, have to go through DSI. And I was on the business review board before this committee, and they're pretty flexible. Maybe there's something in their application or something they can say, hey, there's STAR funds out there if we want to take that approach. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Derek. I wonder if, for the sense of history, Michelle and Nancy, could we add a question to our application to record how people learned about the STAR program? That might be a good data gathering so we can see what is working. I mean, to John's point of how did the liquor store hear about this?
Sure. At one time, and I don't remember what years it was, we did have even a questionnaire that followed the application. I think that was before Zoom grants. That basically, was a voluntary questionnaire, but kind of like how they heard about the program and that type of thing. But we can certainly add that in since we haven't finalized the application form yet.
Great, thanks. And I remember when I was a rookie board member, I think there was another board member who asked that regularly during the interview process.
To answer John's question for the Arcade Wine and Spirits, Councilmember Yang actually her office reached out to him and let them know about the year-round STAR program. So just to answer that question.
See, that should be happening in every
Yeah, I
board.
was just gonna say, was that, that was an individual that they just knew that there was this, a new owner for the liquor store, and they reached out to see what they could do to help them, or was it part of a larger communication to business owners?
I'm not too sure about what they do, but it sounds like they go out and they look around, they drive around and look around, and if they see something that's like, oh, that could really use some repair, then they reach out to that business owner. That's kind of the sense of what I got from their process, but it could also be that these are people that have reached out to their office personally, and then they go out and look at their business. So, but from what I can tell, like they physically go to that place and they're like, oh yeah, you really need these repairs. Here's the program, here are the contact these people for the application kind of thing.
That's great. Yeah.
It's awesome. Mr. Chair?
Yes, good morning, Marge.
In Ward 6, the council person has been attending like the White Bear Avenue Business Association meetings and these other organizations, let's just put it that way, and presenting ideas about STAR projects, who can apply. So I think she's been very proactive in that sense. I can't speak for any other ward, but I know I personally attended some of those meetings.
Great, that's helpful. How about community radio? Roxanne, is that something that's active in the North End? I think there's what, Frogtown Radio. Are there other local radio stations that could serve as outreach, whether to it's a geographic area or certain communities that are in St. Paul? Is that something
I
you
can
would
definitely check. Oh yeah, I could check into it too, and I think that just being able to advertise on multiple levels, I think we just need to take advantage of however we can. I just seen that this, like I said, this community is really duddy, so I thought maybe a more direct approach just for this specific area. I don't know, like I haven't ventured out of North in terms of to see what they're gonna do. Maybe, or maybe maybe it could be like what Miss Angela said. Maybe we could do the newsletters, but make sure we're deliberately giving it to those businesses and saying like, hey, did you read this? Are you, is this something that you noticed? But I think on all levels, radio, like word of mouth, flyers, digital flyers, social media, everything can be used at this point to get the information out. I just want to be real direct with this area because I can see, because I live here, that it's really under the radar, to say.
Hi, I have one other thought.
Yeah, go ahead, Erin.
Sorry, this is Erin. Okay, that's how, Roxanne, that's super helpful context, so thank you. I do wonder, okay, because this kind of goes along with our conversation from last time around the community organizations that are doing re-granting. We need to, if Roxanne's seeing this gap on the North End, we should probably be thinking now, or at least if we could get a map of where all the investments have been for the last couple of years, like that would be great. But if we're thinking the North End is a gap, we should figure out who those community-based partners are and maybe encourage them to apply if we can do that. Because then they have those grassroots on the ground relationships and they'll do that intentional outreach. And so maybe that could be a strategy. And that could also help us with our evaluation criteria, because if we're seeing, or just our evaluation, not the criteria, but just if we're seeing like tons of investments going to one neighborhood because they have a place-based CDC that's working on getting these dollars out, and no investments going to another one, and they both apply, even though the one has a good track record, maybe it's time to take a chance on a different one that hasn't, that they haven't gotten any grants before.
Yeah, thanks for that, Erin. And my conversations with Council President Bren Moen, she has recognized that there aren't community-based organizations in her ward or other parts of the city, and that's one of the challenges they face, is just not having that community development infrastructure there. So that is really key and could be helpful in thinking about how can that gap be filled.
Well, and I wonder about Rice Lerpender Alliance, like Kim O'Brien, or Paris from Isaba. I don't know if that stretches all the way to the North End, but those are two organizations that kind of work in that area.
Okay. So Roxanne, from this conversation and board member interest, what would be helpful to you for next steps and being really intentional around? I think there's some great goals here that we share as far as getting dollars out across the city and making sure that underrepresented areas, as far as STAR Awards, can compete more, and that we receive more applications to review and consider. Is it person power from the board? Is it looking for volunteers, or is it some expertise that we can dig into based on what we've discussed today, what would be most helpful and what would you like to see?
So I would like to start with the organizing part and with what Miss Angela said and Miss Erin backed up with mapping the areas on where we are historically sent most of the money out so that we can find disparate areas. Like I said, I know my area is one, but on the level of advertising, I definitely could probably use a little bit more people power, even if it's just in the event of maybe organizing and trying to figure out ways to plan out things to get the information across. I know that being very strategic with organizing can be very impactful. And so just having the knowledge of where we need to go so we're not wasting time on places that maybe aren't needed. And so even after mapping out the communities, maybe mapping out the areas that need it the most and then working from, but then also simultaneously like maybe building some type of planning group to get to see how we can best utilize our resources and get the information out there. And maybe even seeing if the other business owners would play along in this and saying, hey, do you know a business owner that you have a friend? Like we have barbershops over here and stuff. And so maybe one barbershop owner can get the message out to another barbershop owner and things like that, or just little ways, I guess. I definitely could use maybe one or two other people with planning and, organizing, things like that. So.
Okay. So board, I guess my request would be then to reach out. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
First of all, I thought this whole conversation was interesting, and I'm pleased to have it on the agenda today. But one of the comments that came out of there, and maybe it's something that can be provided by the marketing wing, is a map of where we have granted money in the last, say, 3 years. Because there's other sections of the city that I strongly suspect, aren't getting the attention that they need. And I'm thinking of, I think it's Ward 4, that's way over on the western side that bumps up against the 280 up there. That is such a commercial area, and yet we see so little requests and things coming out of that area. And then it brings to mind the West End, that for years, in my opinion, was a totally forgotten area. And all of a sudden, after we did a few grants over there, we're starting to see much better communication down in the West End and taking care of that neighborhood. But I think it would be a good thing for the board to see a map of where our money has been going in the last few years. And I don't care the amounts. I just care where they are so that we can better get our arms around, is the east side really forgotten? How much have we done with the north side and so on? Anyway, that's my comment on it, but good discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. The other thing I would add on that too is maybe a heat map of the applications too. So where awards have gone, but also where applications have come from, because obviously there's unsuccessful applications. So I think both of those side by side could be really, really important. Rihanna, go ahead. Microphone's tweeting on and off.
I'm gonna try again. Can you guys hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yep. Good morning.
Okay, sorry about that. This computer, I tell you, is freezing on me. I'm not sure what this would look like, but I do like the concept or the idea of, some sort of like starboard awardee alumni group, you know, the businesses that have been really successful in utilizing the funds that we've granted them. And maybe if there's some sort of partnership or guiding that they can do, if they would be willing. Obviously, I don't want to add more to their workload as business owners, but just kind of like, I guess, allowing them to guide newcomers, guide the new people through the process, and kind of, I guess, put like a little bit more of a personal face to the process. So just kind of, like I said, I'm not quite sure what that would look like, and I don't want to add more work, but I do kind of like that idea of having like a mentor-mentee guide.
Sure. Great, thank you. Angela.
I was just going to echo everyone's comments about the heat map concept, and to Charlie's point about making sure we understand all the applications versus all the awards on that heat map. So we really get to understand, like, if we're seeing a lot of, you know, applications come in, but not a lot of awards in a certain area, maybe there's additional supports that that particular area needs compared to others. But really, until we get that data, it's hard to like step back and do a really good plan. But I do think at some point, once we get that data, we can then look at the broad overview marketing plan and how we get the word out, including the testimonials and the mentorship and all those wonderful things, but also then do a targeted marketing plan for those areas where we need to see more applications.
Great. Marge.
I love that.
Go ahead, Marge. You can turn your mic on and go for it.
Oh, okay, there we go. Again, I was saying that I do agree with most of the comments that were said, although I think 3 years may not be enough. You know, if we could do 5 years, that gives us a really nice picture of even trends split it up year by year on a spreadsheet. Now that, Michelle, that sounds like a lot of work. And if it is, then it's not a good idea, but that I think would be helpful. Because I know that we've had people come back, the same companies, businesses, entities, year after year after year. Well, maybe not year after year, but return. Done.
Thanks, Marge. John, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good place to start, I think. And we just, you keep in mind those re-granting organizations in the neighborhoods. And also, I appreciate Jim giving a shout out to the Creative Enterprise Zone. But of course, that's another re-granting group. And there are probably, obviously, there are awards and areas that have other supports. For instance, we have a great community bank in our area. Thanks, Terry. So it is a kind of complex picture when you look at what the need is. There have been grant requests from Ward 4 that haven't really competed in terms of need with other parts of the city when grants are awarded. And I think that's just as it should be in a way. There are neighborhoods that have supports that other neighborhoods don't have. But I think that's a good place to start, to have those maps so that we can really start to understand those pictures. But there are a couple of layers that we'll need to add on to that to really be able to make sure that the money and the attention is going to the areas that have been overlooked or that just don't have the same strong district councils or support networks.
Great. Anyone else right now? Well, Marge, you're back in the queue. Go ahead.
And in listening to John, this is more complex than it would seem. And I don't know if I made my point clear, but it's not just where the applications come from or how they're awarded. But we've had many organizations, refunding groups, and that's been I would say, since I've been on the board, that they're funded every year, every other year. So plus other corporations, or I'm thinking of, in Phelan Park. But there are places, I guess what I'm saying, it's not just where they're awarded. You might get a big award in, let's say, the West Side, but it's not indicative of the amount of dollars spent there for individual business owners. Am I making any sense to anybody? No. All right, goodbye.
Chris, go ahead. You need your microphone, Chris.
There's always my greatest thoughts when I first start speaking, so you missed those. But three things. One is I want to make sure before the end of the meeting, we lend and provide our support to Roxanne in terms of joining her effort with developing the marketing concept. So let's make sure we do that. Secondly, it seems like we have a short and long-term strategy or plan here. Because short term is we have, applications opening and deadlines coming up pretty quickly. So I hope we can think what we can do now and then looking out next years of a plan and strategy going forward. Thirdly, as part of all this conversation, what are the resources? This is where I look to Michelle or Nancy, but what resources can we go back to city staff for as we put out all these ideas that we don't necessarily have the capacity to do? What support do we get from them in doing some of this work?
Good question, Chris. We can look into what other funding is available. A lot of times an application comes in and there might be a program that might help someone with certain project activities, but not with other project activities. So we can try to put something together. I can bring it back to my supervisor and see if we can get a list out there as well. And maybe that is something that, and I know that our new media person that was just hired, that is one of the things that she is trying to put together is something for, at least for our website, that will list different funding opportunities, not just STAR. And I don't know exactly where she's at, but I can do some checking and check back with you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. Thanks, Michelle. Marge.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have no more comments.
Oh, okay. Saw your hand up. Okay.
No, this is Derek.
Yeah, Derek, go ahead.
No, I agree with Marge in what she was articulating. I just want to chime in on that. It does make sense because when you look at the data, and I think we have this information out there. I don't know how old it is, where we do track what dollars are spent to each ward. But I think the level of detail and trying to double down on these efforts, particularly with our CDAs and some of the other objectives that we have today. So I think it's a great opportunity to look at. So I just want to show my support for that as well.
Thanks, Derek. So board members, if you're interested in joining Roxanne and contributing some thoughts and work around this, please email her directly and ask you to copy Michelle and Nancy as well so they can track that. And then I think there's a lot here of great ideas and great thoughtfulness around how to move forward and look at what the next steps could be and make sure that these dollars are getting to where there are needs across the entire city. So thank you for your leadership on this, Roxanne. This was a really great conversation and really appreciate you taking this on and then encourage other board member participation. Okay, next on, yes, thank you. Next on the agenda, other business, I will report that the board voted to modify the guidelines recommendations to remain at one round rather than the 2 rounds. That was the recommendation from PED and the city council. We took a vote after the January meeting, and the majority chose to remain with the 1 round. So pull back from that 2 round recommendation we had initially made and passed in December. Additionally, the the guidelines are still parked in the PED director's office after those conversations. Followed up saying reminding Director Goodman the conversations we've had, as well as what we had looked at and why we were recommending a small pool as well as an open pool. It looks like she today made a recommendation. She wants to keep the guidelines status quo with what they were previously for the 2020 round, the 2021 round. And so I'll be communicating with the city council president as well, just reiterating our desires for some modifications, some revisions to the guidelines, and see where the city moves forward. Because I think there is an understanding now that this program needs to move forward in 2022. So I'll keep my pledge to you is I'll keep driving the effort forward so we can try and get this started. I know it's been frustrating to see it parked for so long. And I know that city council members want to see it going, and plus they have their own program that they want to get underway and launched as well. So that's my brief update on that, with some news this morning from Director Goodman's office. Michelle, I don't know if you have anything else you want to share there or provide any updates on.
Nope, that you've heard the same updated information that I have, and as soon as you have a conversation maybe with Nicole or with the council president, I'm happy to send whatever out to get it moving. I'm hoping that however this is resolved, it'll be resolved quickly so that we can launch the program. So usually we kick off the end of January. Right now, my guess is if we can get something resolved within the next week, we'll kick off mid-March, which means applications will be due probably 3rd week in April. And then we will try very hard to keep everything as close to schedule as possible so that you will do interviews still in May. And by the meeting in June, you'll be ready to vote on whatever proposals we receive. So it'll be a little shortened or a little tight, but I think we can still do it and try to keep things on time so that July and August will be off for all of you.
Okay, thanks for that, Michelle. Any questions from board members?
So Charlie, can you just, I'm kind of clear as mud, confused. So when the PED director, Nicole, said leave things status quo, does that mean no change and not take our recommendation of just 1 round? And then on I know the city council is trying to start another pot of money. So does that mean that those requests from the city go to their pot versus our pot? I'm just confused with, us needing another, I mean, as if it's not taking money away from STAR funds. Sorry. I'm just kind of jumbled. Sorry.
Yeah, those are great questions, Carrie. So we, as the Neighborhood Star program for the annual traditional round, we still have the $1.5 million. The board voted in December to make some revisions on that. And so some of the changes were updating the cultural destination area language, the 10% balance for the relending, regranting organizations to make sure that money gets out the door every year. There was the clarification on home-based businesses. There was the desire for a small pool round for applications between $5,000 and $30,000, and then an open pool for amounts over that. And then the 5th major change in there was adding a second round for October. In January, the board voted to approve walking back that second round. And so the other 4 changes would remain. Director Goodman said, essentially rejected those 4 changes and just wants to keep what has been in place for the last number of years. As far as the city council program, that neighborhood program, they have their, what is that, about 1.7 million, Michelle, that they budgeted and passed on December 8th. And that program is yet to be, it still needs its guiding documents. I think the guidelines need to be finalized and what that application process needs to be finalized, but that's a city council driven process. I mean, there'd be a role for us to review, but that's not something that we write. And that's a city council program rather than the Neighborhood Star program. I think there should be some synergies there, and it makes sense if there's some consistent language around that. And I think the great effort that we all put into that should be recognized. I know the city council president, and in conversations with other city council members, she indicated support and appreciation for all the thoughtfulness that went into those and trying to respond to neighborhood needs out there. And so we'll see if there's an appetite to move forward with the board's recommendations, but that's still a determination between PD and the mayor's office and the city council. It hasn't been for lack of effort and pushing on trying to move this forward with those recommendations, but it's just been a little paused at the top there. So is that all your points, Terry? I think I know,
Yeah.
and it has, and there are a number of moving pieces there, but that's where it stands right now.
Thanks for the recap. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. It's great to see your virtual smiley faces and good discussion, and we have an extra half hour, so enjoy your weekends. Oh, there's Marge. Hello. Enjoy your weekends. Thanks for the great discussion, and please email Roxanne and staff if you're interested in this group. I saw Chris put in the chat he's interested, so look forward to having some good participation there. So we'll see you next month.
Great job, Charlie. Great job.
Great job. Thanks, everybody.